February 1959. 9 experienced hikers, young, vibrant, and eager for adventure, set out into the unforgiving wilderness of the Ural Mountains in Soviet Russia. They had meticulously planned every step of their expedition, aiming to conquer a treacherous route and earn the highest certification in mountaineering. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, was a natural guide, a meticulous planner who left nothing to chance. The group's journals and photographs captured their progress through the biting cold, a testament to their camaraderie and resilience. For days, everything seemed to be going according to plan, until it didn't. Weeks later, when search teams finally located the group, they uncovered a scene that defied explanation. Their tent was discovered high on the snow-covered slopes, slashed open from the inside, its occupants having fled into the icy wilderness without shoes, coats, or any of the gear that could have saved their lives. Footprints in the snow told the story of their desperate flight, barefoot, nearly naked, into temperatures that could freeze flesh in minutes. Then came the bodies. Some were found near a makeshift fire, frozen in positions suggesting an agonizing battle against the elements. Others were discovered farther away in a shallow ravine, their injuries baffling even seasoned investigators. A fractured skull. Ribs crushed with a force likened to a car crash. One hiker missing her tongue, her face frozen in a grimace of anguish. And yet, no external wounds explained these injuries. No evidence of an attack. No other footprints. Just an eerie, unsettling silence. What could have driven 9 skilled, rational hikers to abandon their only shelter in such terror? Why did they split up, and how did they sustain injuries no human could have inflicted? The Soviet investigation concluded their deaths were caused by an unknown compelling force. But what does that mean? Over 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most chilling mysteries of the modern age. A case with no clear answers, only theories that stretch the limits of imagination. Today, we'll unravel the chilling details of this case, piece together the group's final moments, and explore the possibilities, natural, accidental, and unexplainable, that continue to haunt investigators and conspiracy theorists alike. This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident. It was February 1959, and the Soviet Union was deep in the grips of winter. Amidst the icy expanse of the Ural Mountains, a group of 9 adventurers was preparing for a journey that would become infamous. These weren't ordinary hikers. They were students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, a highly regarded technical university in Sverdlovsk, now Yekaterinburg. All of them were experienced mountaineers who had taken on challenging expeditions before. This time, they sought to earn the highest certification in mountaineering, which required completing a trek classified as Category 3, the most difficult level of its kind. Leading the group was Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student known for his careful planning and unwavering leadership. Dyatlov had earned the respect of his peers, and the group trusted him to guide them safely through the perilous terrain. The hikers varied in age and background, but each had a shared passion for exploration and adventure. Zenaida Kolmogorova and Lyudmila Dubinina, the 2 women in the group, were as resilient as their male counterparts, often pushing through physical challenges with determination. Semyon Zolotaryov, the eldest at 38, was a military veteran with a wealth of life experience. Yuri Doroshenko, Rustem Slobodin, Alexander Kolovatov, and others brought their unique strengths to the group, making them a formidable team. The journey's goal was to reach Otorten Mountain, a peak known for its challenging conditions. The route would take them through remote wilderness, across frozen rivers, and up steep, snow-covered slopes. One particular area on their route was Kolat Shako, a name given by the indigenous Mansi people, meaning Mountain of the Dead. The ominous name wasn't enough to deter the group. To them, it was another obstacle to overcome, a challenge that would cement their status as elite mountaineers. The hikers meticulously prepared for the trek, understanding the dangers of the Ural Mountains in winter. Temperatures could plummet to minus 30 degrees Celsius or minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, and the weather was unpredictable. The group packed provisions for 2 weeks, including canned goods, bread, sugar, and meat. They carried cameras, journals, and maps to document their journey. The goal wasn't just to survive, but to thrive, enjoying the camaraderie of the group while testing their physical and mental limits. On January 25th, the group boarded a train to Övdal, a small town near the starting point of their journey. From there, they traveled by truck to Vijay, the last settlement before the wilderness. The locals in Vijay were used to hikers passing through, but even they likely noted the determined energy of Dyatlov's team. Before departing, Dyatlov submitted his itinerary to a local sports club as required. The plan was simple. The group would trek through the wilderness, reach Otorten Mountain, and return by February 12th. If they hadn't returned by then, a search party would be sent. On January 27th, the group began their trek. Yuri Yudin, one of the 10 original members, fell ill shortly after and was forced to turn back. His departure was bittersweet. He wanted to continue, but his body wouldn't allow it. As the group waved him off, none of them could have known that this decision would save Yudin's life. He would later become the sole survivor and a key figure in piecing together the events of the doomed expedition. The first few days of the hike were uneventful, marked by steady progress through dense forests and over frozen rivers. Spirits were high, as evidenced by the photos and journal entries the group left behind. They captured moments of joy, laughing around a campfire, posing for the camera, and marveling at the stark beauty of their surroundings. It was a time of camaraderie, where challenges like the biting cold and heavy snow only strengthened their bond. As they ascended into higher altitudes, the terrain became more treacherous. The trees thinned, replaced by open stretches of snow-covered tundra. The wind howled relentlessly, and the cold seeped into their bones. Yet the group pressed on, driven by their shared goal and the excitement of conquering Otorten Mountain. By February 1st, the group reached the base of Kholat Syakhl. For reasons still debated today, they chose to set up camp on an exposed slope rather than in the shelter of the nearby forest. Some speculate that Dyatlov wanted to practice camping in harsh conditions. Others believe they had planned to continue their ascent the following day and didn't want to lose progress by backtracking to the tree line. That night, the hikers pitched their tent and huddled together for warmth. They cooked a simple meal, made notes in their diaries, and likely discussed their plans for the next day. The final diary entry reads, "We are on the slope of Kholat Syakhl. Everything is fine." It was an ordinary statement. Calm, uneventful, even mundane. But this was the last anyone would hear from them. What happened after they zipped their tent shut that evening remains one of the most haunting enigmas in modern history. A tragedy was about to unfold, and when the world would finally learn of their fate weeks later, it wouldn't just be the deaths that raised questions. It would be the unexplainable, nightmarish circumstances surrounding them. Something had gone terribly wrong, and the snow-covered slopes of Kholat Syakhl were about to become the scene of an enduring mystery that refuses to let go of its secrets. The Soviet authorities launched an official investigation into the incident at Dyatlov Pass shortly after the bodies were discovered. As the harsh conditions of the Ural Mountains continued to challenge their efforts, A team of highly trained forensic experts and investigators arrived to piece together the mystery that had shocked the nation. Upon examining the bodies, the investigators were perplexed by the injuries. The bodies had sustained blunt force trauma, but the nature of the wounds was puzzling. Some of the injuries were described by forensic experts as being like those of a car crash, bruising and fractures that would normally be expected after an intense collision, yet there were no external signs of any physical trauma from an outside force. No signs of a struggle, no broken bones from an accident. This only deepened the suspicion that something far stranger had occurred. Despite the catastrophic internal injuries, the bodies themselves seemed to show little or no external signs of harm. Their faces were eerily peaceful, almost as though they had died in their sleep. The discovery of missing tongues, however, added a grotesque element to the case. Several of the victims had their tongues removed, and these organs were never found. The only clue was a faint trace of what appeared to be animal bite marks on some of the bodies, though nothing could fully explain this disturbing detail. Even more bizarre were the traces of radiation found on the clothing of the hikers. The discovery was made as the investigators combed through the belongings of the hikers, which included their personal effects, camping gear, and clothing. Some items, including their jackets and boots, showed unusually high levels of radiation. Nay, it was theorized that the hikers might have been exposed to radioactive materials, though no one could definitively determine the source. Some experts speculated that the radiation could have been from military experiments conducted in the region, but this theory remained unproven. Burns on the skin of some of the victims also raised alarm. These were not burns from fire, but rather burns that resembled exposure to some form of extreme heat or electrical discharge. It was as if they had come into contact with some sort of high-energy source, something that might cause localized skin damage without leaving any visible marks or burns on the clothing. As the investigation continued, a number of eyewitness reports began to surface. Local residents of the area, many of whom were from the Mansi, and indigenous people living in the Siberian taiga, reported seeing strange orange lights in the sky on the night of the incident. The lights were described as bright, moving in erratic patterns, and some even spoke of hearing an odd hum or buzzing noise in the sky. The accounts varied, but all painted a picture of something extraordinary in the night sky. This was not the first time strange lights had been reported in the region. Over the years, locals had passed down stories about mysterious phenomena that had occurred in the mountains. These tales, often dismissed as folklore, now seemed eerily relevant. The Mansi elders spoke of a legend in which supernatural beings descended from the sky, sometimes bringing death or misfortune. Some of the locals even suggested that the hikers had unwittingly angered the spirits of the mountains, and that their deaths were a result of some ancient curse. Despite these local beliefs, Soviet investigators were wary of attaching any supernatural explanations to the deaths. However, the strange lights in the sky continued to be a point of discussion. Could they have been related to a military experiment, an aircraft, or something even more otherworldly? The investigation team struggled to find any conclusive evidence to connect the lights to the deaths, but they could not rule out the possibility. One of the most perplexing elements of the investigation was the state of the hikers' tent. The tent had been slashed open from the inside, with no signs of a struggle or forced entry. It appeared as if the hikers had been trying to escape something, yet there was no indication of what had caused them to flee so suddenly. Some of the bodies had been found far from the tent, some in a state of partial undress, and others in strange positions as though they had been running in panic. Theories surrounding the cause of the deaths grew increasingly bizarre. Some believed that the hikers had stumbled upon a secret Soviet military base, possibly involved in experimental weapons testing. The high levels of radiation and the unexplained burns seemed to support this idea, but no hard evidence was found to link the incident to any known military operations in the region. Others speculated that the hikers had encountered an avalanche. But the lack of snow-related injuries and the evidence of injuries that did not align with the typical avalanche scenario made this theory less plausible. There was no sign of a large-scale snowslide, and the hikers' bodies had not been buried under tons of snow, as would have been expected in such a case. As the investigation went on, several more pieces of evidence were uncovered, but each only deepened the mystery. The Mansi people, although not directly involved, became central figures in the investigation due to their knowledge of the region. Some believed that the hikers had unknowingly ventured into sacred territory, disturbing something ancient and malevolent. These ideas, however, were dismissed by most investigators, who leaned toward more rational explanations. However, no matter how many explanations were put forward, none seemed to provide the answers that were so desperately sought after. Every new piece of evidence only deepened the mystery, leaving more questions than answers. Was the cause of their deaths natural, military-related, or something far more obscure? As the investigation stalled and time passed, the Dyatlov Pass Incident became an enigma that would remain unsolved, its mysteries lingering in the frozen winds of the Siberian mountains. The eerie silence surrounding the case only intensified as the months went on. Rumors of cover-ups and classified reports circulated among those who were involved, with many questioning whether the truth would ever be revealed. The hikers, once young adventurers, had become symbols of the unknown, forever associated with an event that seemed too strange, too unsettling to ever be fully explained. The Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in the world, its true cause still debated to this day. Some say the answer lies hidden in the frozen ground of the Ural Mountains, waiting to be uncovered, while others believe that the truth is far more terrifying than anyone could imagine. As new theories emerge and new evidence is discovered, the mystery continues to haunt the minds of those who seek the truth. With the Soviet investigation failing to yield a definitive answer, the mystery surrounding the deaths of the Dyatlov group began to generate a growing number of theories. These ranged from rational, natural explanations to more bizarre, supernatural ideas that seemed to stretch the boundaries of logic and science. As the years passed, the theories became as varied and complex as the mystery itself. But could all these theories point to something far more sinister or mundane? In the absence of any solid evidence pointing to a single cause, the most rational theories attempted to explain the deaths as a result of natural phenomena. These theories focused on the difficult and unpredictable conditions of the Ural Mountains, where the group had been trekking when disaster struck. One of the most widely discussed theories suggested that an avalanche had occurred, forcing the hikers to flee their tent in panic. This theory gained some traction due to the discovery of the hikers' tent being slashed open from the inside, a sign that they had hurriedly escaped in the midst of some perceived danger. However, no signs of avalanche-related injuries were found on the bodies, and the absence of snow in some areas where the bodies were discovered made this explanation less likely. Another theory tied to avalanches was the idea of a katabatic wind, a type of cold, downslope wind that occurs in mountainous regions. This wind, which can reach speeds of up to 120 kilometers per hour, 75 miles per hour, can be terrifyingly sudden and powerful, sometimes causing snow to cascade downward in a way that mimics an avalanche. It could have forced the hikers to abandon their tent in a panic. However, this theory also had its flaws. No substantial evidence was found to indicate that a katabatic wind was active on the night of the incident, and the hikers had been camping in a relatively sheltered spot. Additionally, the unexplained injuries of some of the hikers did not align with the typical signs of avalanche trauma, casting doubt on this theory. A more plausible natural explanation was that hypothermia had played a key role in the hikers' deaths. In cases of severe hypothermia, the body can experience a phenomenon known as paradoxical undressing, where a person feeling overheated and disoriented strips off their clothing even as their body temperature continues to plummet. This could explain why some of the hikers were found in a state of partial undress. According to this theory, the group had become disoriented after fleeing their tent, unable to think clearly due to the cold. In their panic and confusion, they may have made the fatal mistake of shedding their clothes, believing that they were too warm, or simply becoming so confused by the cold that they failed to seek shelter or protection. This could explain some of the strange positions in which the bodies were found. It could also account for the lack of other signs of external injury, as the hikers' deaths may have been caused primarily by exposure to the extreme cold. While this theory was plausible, it didn't fully explain the more bizarre elements of the case, such as the missing tongues, the high levels of radiation, and the burns on the bodies. It also did not account for the reports of strange lights in the sky on the night of the incident, nor the unsettling evidence of animal bite marks found on some of the bodies. As the case remained unsolved, more and more outlandish theories began to emerge. These ranged from suggestions that the hikers had encountered extraterrestrial life to speculation that the Soviet government had been involved in a cover-up. Theories of supernatural forces, secret experiments, and curses began to take hold, fueling further speculation and public interest in the case. The reports of strange orange lights in the sky on the night of the incident fueled speculation about extraterrestrial involvement. Some theorists believed that the hikers had encountered a UFO or some form of alien technology. The Mansi people, whose ancestors had lived in the region for centuries, were often cited in these theories, with some suggesting that they had witnessed similar phenomena over the years. One of the more fantastical ideas was that the hikers had accidentally stumbled upon an alien craft or some kind of otherworldly experiment. Some even claimed that the missing tongues could be evidence of an alien abduction. The idea was that the extraterrestrials had removed the hikers' tongues for some scientific purpose, possibly related to communication or some sort of alien ritual. While this theory was based largely on speculation and the mysterious nature of the evidence, it nevertheless captured the imagination of many. Although UFO sightings had been reported in the region for years, there was no concrete evidence to suggest that the hikers had encountered extraterrestrial beings. Still, the strange lights in the sky remained unexplained, and the mystery of the hikers' deaths continued to fuel theories about alien involvement. Another conspiracy theory suggested that the hikers had been caught in the midst of a secret Soviet military experiment. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union was known to conduct numerous clandestine operations, including tests of nuclear weapons, chemical agents, and biological warfare programs. Some believed that the hikers had unknowingly wandered into a restricted military zone, where they had been exposed to dangerous experimental materials or weapons. The presence of radiation on the hikers' clothing, as well as the strange burns on their skin, seemed to lend some credibility to this theory. Some speculated that the Soviet government had been testing a new type of weapon in the area, and that the hikers had inadvertently become victims of this secretive operation. The fact that the investigation was shut down quickly by the KGB and that many of the files related to the case were classified only fueled these suspicions. This theory was also supported by the lack of answers from the Soviet authorities, who offered little information to the public. The hasty closure of the case and the absence of a clear cause of death only reinforced the idea that the government was hiding something. Despite attempts by journalists and researchers to uncover the truth, the Soviet authorities maintained their silence, leading many to believe that the Dyatlov Pass incident was linked to a top-secret government project. Some of the most persistent theories about the Dyatlov Pass incident were rooted in local folklore and the Mansi people's beliefs. The Mansi, a small indigenous group that had lived in the region for centuries, had long told tales of strange occurrences in the Ural Mountains. The Mansi elders spoke of a curse placed upon the mountains by ancient spirits, who would exact revenge on anyone who trespassed on sacred land. This theory suggested that the hikers had unknowingly angered these spirits, leading to their deaths. The missing tongues, the burns on the bodies, and the strange injuries were all seen as signs that the hikers had incurred the wrath of the mountain gods. Some even speculated that the Mansi themselves had been involved, either out of superstition or as part of a traditional ritual meant to punish those who dared to enter forbidden areas. While the Mansi people themselves rejected the idea that they had any role in the incident, the connection between local legends and the mysterious events continued to captivate those who believed in the supernatural. As the theories continued to multiply, the Dyatlov Pass incident became an object of fascination for researchers, conspiracy theorists, and the general public alike. But despite the many ideas that had been proposed, the true cause of the hikers' deaths remained elusive. Some believed that the incident was the result of a tragic combination of natural factors, while others were convinced that a dark conspiracy was at work. Could it be that the truth was far more mundane, that the hikers had simply been the victims of an unfortunate accident, one exacerbated by the harsh environment and their own disorientation? Or was something far more sinister at play, a cover-up by the Soviet government, or a supernatural force that was beyond human understanding? The Dyatlov Pass incident would go on to haunt the public imagination for years to come, with no definitive answers in sight. Each new piece of evidence seemed to open up more questions, and the case remained one of the most baffling mysteries of the 20th century. In the end, the true story may never be fully known, leaving behind only speculation, unanswered questions, and the chilling thought that sometimes the most disturbing mysteries are the ones that remain unsolved forever. As the years passed, the mystery of the Dyatlov Pass incident continued to haunt the public consciousness. With each new investigation, each new theory, and each passing year, the puzzle only seemed to grow more complex, its pieces scattered in ways that made it nearly impossible to piece together. What happened that fateful night in the Ural Mountains? Was it a tragic accident brought on by the harsh conditions and the hikers' own miscalculations? Or was it something far more sinister, an event rooted in conspiracy, supernatural forces, or even extraterrestrial encounters? To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most perplexing mysteries of our time, a puzzle missing its final piece. Despite the many theories that have been put forward, none have been able to conclusively explain what happened to those 9 young adventurers. Was their fate sealed by a freak avalanche, or were they the unwitting victims of a military experiment gone wrong? Could the eerie reports of orange lights in the sky have been a clue to an extraterrestrial encounter? Or did the hikers unknowingly trespass into territory cursed by the spirits of the Mansi people? The truth remains elusive. Even with modern technology and renewed interest in the case, there is still no clear answer. The investigation was never fully resolved, and much of the evidence has been lost or sealed behind classified files, leaving the public to speculate and theorize. The tragic deaths of the Dyatlov group continue to resonate, both for the strange circumstances surrounding their demise and for the unanswered questions that still linger. How could a group of experienced hikers, in the prime of their lives, meet such a gruesome and unexplained end? The lack of definitive answers has only added to the mystique of the incident. The theories continue to multiply, from the rational to the fantastical, and yet the facts remain scattered, open to interpretation. There are still those who believe that the Dyatlov Pass holds its secrets, a place where the answers lie buried under the frozen soil and snow, waiting to be uncovered. But how many more years will pass before the mystery is solved? How many more people will venture into the mountains, hoping to discover the truth? Perhaps the mountain holds its secrets, waiting for the brave or foolish to uncover them. The Dyatlov Pass has become a symbol of the unknown, a place where answers are elusive, and the search for truth is fraught with danger. In the years since the tragedy, there have been countless theories and investigations, but none have led to a final resolution. Could it be that the Dyatlov Pass will remain shrouded in mystery forever? Is the truth of what happened that night in February 1959 something that the mountain itself will never relinquish? The more time passes, the more the tragedy seems like a riddle with no solution, a question that will remain unanswered for generations. But perhaps this is the nature of the mystery itself. In a world where so many answers are found, some puzzles remain unsolved, and the journey to uncover the truth can be as haunting and enduring as the mystery itself. There are those who believe that the answers are out there, hidden in plain sight. But are we prepared to face the truth, whatever it may be? Will we ever have the courage to look deeper, to venture further into the unknown? As we reflect on the Dyatlov Pass incident, we are reminded that some mysteries are not easily solved. The story of these 9 hikers has inspired countless documentaries, books, and theories, yet the truth remains just out of reach. To those who are still seeking answers, the call to uncover the mystery remains. The Dyatlov Pass continues to hold its secrets, but it is up to us, those who dare to ask the hard questions, to search for the answers, to press on. Will you take up the challenge to dig deeper, to search further, to uncover the untold story of the Dyatlov Pass? If you're captivated by the haunting questions that remain unanswered, consider delving into the mystery yourself. Explore the remote corners of the Ural Mountains, or study the evidence with a critical eye. It may be that the answers you seek are out there, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps they will remain forever hidden, just beyond our reach. Either way, the Dyatlov Pass incident will continue to be a beacon for those curious enough to ask, what really happened that night? The truth is out there, but only those brave enough to venture into the unknown may ever truly uncover it. What do you think happened on that cold, fateful night in 1959? Let us know your theories in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories that continue to leave us questioning the line between the known and the unknown.